Yep, you read that title correctly. I have found new information about the Infinity Killer in 2025. So obviously, the entire mystery of the Infinity Killer is already known. The newspaper articles, the fact that he died in prison, his house, and even where the bodies are located. But something we've never known is the inspiration for the Infinity Killer, what the Infinity Killer is based on. There are many assumptions that the Infinity Killer is based on the Zodiac Killer in real life, etc., but that is not the case. The Infinity Killer came from Dexter. I know you probably didn't expect me to say that, but hear me out. The Infinity Killer is directly based on a serial killer from Dexter. Now, I'm not talking about the Dexter TV show, I'm talking about something that came out in 2010. But the Infinity Killer did briefly appear in the Dexter TV show as well, and I guarantee you've never noticed it. Now firstly, I'm going to briefly explain the Infinity Killer mystery for those of you who don't know, but if you do already know, I'm going to put a timestamp on the screen. Skip to that timestamp and you can learn exactly how the Infinity Killer came from Dexter. Okay, so firstly, the Infinity Killer. Probably the most solved mystery in the entirety of GTA 5. In 1999, San Andreas had a serial killer, and he was known as the Infinity Killer. The Infinity Killer murdered 8 people and the bodies were never found. All 8 of his victims were joggers, and the Infinity Killer claimed that 8 is just infinity standing up, and that's why he was nicknamed the Infinity Killer. The police eventually caught him. He was a man named Merle Abrahams, and he was sentenced to life in prison. He also died in prison. He never confessed to the murders or where the bodies were located, but he did leave behind a few clues. These clues were poems that could be found around San Andreas. The first one was found on a rock, and the final one was found inside the prison where he died. But the final poem was the most important one because it gave us a map. It told us exactly where the bodies were buried, something that the public and the police had no idea about. So the idea with the Infinity Killer is that we, the player, solve the mystery by finding the bodies. The bodies were located at the top of the map and they are all wrapped up under the water. Now we know that these are the victims of the Infinity Killer because there are 8 of them, and if you unwrap them using mods, you can see that they actually have the number 8 or the infinity symbol on their body. So that, as far as we knew, it was the entire mystery of the Infinity Killer. Mystery solved and he's dead. But I've recently come across some new information about him, and it's to do with the origin story. The idea of the Infinity Killer came from Dexter. During Season 5, Episode 1 of Dexter, I noticed something weird on the back of a bathroom door. Now this is the episode right after Dexter loses Rita. He walks into a bathroom and he kills a random dude simply because he's extremely emotional. Now after he's killed this dude, when he's on the floor covered in blood, for a split second you can notice a symbol on the back of the bathroom door. Now it's ridiculous that I noticed this, I don't even know how I noticed this, but it's the symbol of the Infinity Killer. Remember 8 is just infinity stood up? Well, this is also the symbol of a serial killer in the Dexter universe. Not one that Dexter deals with directly, but the infinity symbol on the door is an Easter egg towards that killer. And believe it or not, the killer in the Dexter universe that has an obsession with the infinity symbol is also called the Infinity Killer. What are the chances that there would be an Infinity Killer in Dexter and GTA and they both have an obsession with the infinity symbol? But how does this fit into Dexter and GTA? Well, I found that symbol in the first episode of Season 5. Season 5 of Dexter released on September the 26th in 2010. So that's 3 years before GTA 5 released. So that already confirms to us that the Infinity Killer existed in Dexter before it existed in GTA 5. But let me explain what the Infinity Killer in Dexter really was. So in 2010 there was a Dexter alternative reality game with a mysterious serial killer. Now this game was released right before Season 5 of Dexter came out. It was actually to promote Season 5 of Dexter right after the Trinity Killer ended. And it was a game that occurred in real life for the public, so they set up websites, they set up real life kill rooms, and the public had to solve the mystery of who the Infinity Killer was. Now the plotline for this game was basically that there was this woman called the Serial Huntress. She was hunting the Infinity Killer and she needed the public's help. So we, the public, basically had to step foot in Dexter's shoes and try to solve riddles, cryptic messages, and whatever the Infinity Killer left behind. There were websites set up for this hunt, YouTube accounts, Twitter accounts, most of them are still there to this day. And every week the serial huntress would update the public as to how close they're getting to the Infinity Killer. Now it went on for a while because this was basically a scavenger promotional hunt, but everywhere the Infinity Killer went he left behind the Infinity symbol. The backstory to the Infinity Killer was that he was basically kidnapped by another serial killer called the Roulette Killer 30 years ago. The Roulette Killer would basically kidnap kids and pin them against each other with Russian roulette. The Infinity Killer decided to shoot the Roulette Killer instead, and then he grew up 30 years later to become the Infinity Killer. So kind of like Dexter's backstory, a traumatic experience turned him into what he is today. But something interesting about this that we only learn at the very end of the game, the other kid that the Roulette Killer wanted the Infinity Killer to kill was actually the serial huntress. So they were both taken by that serial killer 30 years ago, and then one grew up to be a detective and the other grew up to be a serial killer. Now this in real life game ended on the 23rd of September in 2010, just before the start of Season 5, and it ended with the Infinity Killer's death. The public were actually given the choice to either kill the serial huntress or to kill the Infinity Killer. Most people voted on the Infinity Killer, so the Infinity Killer was the one that died. And that is why the Infinity symbol can be seen in the first episode of Dexter Season 5. It's a little Easter egg to the promotional event that just ended. Okay, so now you officially know everything about the Infinity Killer in Dexter. Now the Infinity Killer in GTA 5, he has some obvious similarities. The first one obviously being the name, the Infinity Killer. They both have the exact same serial killer nickname, and that's because they both have an obsession with infinity. They also both have the trademark of leaving the infinity symbol everywhere they go. The GTA 5 Infinity Killer left us riddled poems to figure out. The Dexter Infinity Killer left us riddled crime scenes, websites, and messages to figure out. The Dexter Infinity Killer had a Twitter account where he selected 8 juries. 8 people from the public, specifically 8 because of the infinity symbol looking like an 8. So you can see where I'm going with this. The GTA 5 Infinity Killer is directly based on the Infinity Killer from the Dexter game. Everything about both Infinity Killers is exactly the same apart from the backstory. And the time frame being 2010 is just perfect, as 2010 was the year that Rockstar were collecting their references and Easter eggs to put into the game. So obviously somebody at Rockstar Games took part in the Dexter reality game and decided the Infinity Killer was a great idea and decided to recreate it in GTA 5 in almost the exact same way apart from the backstory and how he dumps bodies. The fact that he wraps bodies up and dumps them under the water is likely taken from Dexter himself. Out of all of the GTA 5 mysteries that I'm attempting to find new information on, I did not think I'd find something on the Infinity Killer. Especially the fact that I found it by simply watching Dexter. But if you learned something new in this video, drop a like because that helps me out an incredible amount, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.